Chapter 2679, 1/Kill. Kill him. Two figures took action at the same time upon the Purple Beast Alliance Master's order. Those two were the petite old man while the other was an evil-looking woman in black clothes, the left and right guardian of the Purple Beast Alliance. They were both extremely strong high-level heaven ultimate gods. The void seems as though it had been pierced open as a black sword appeared beside Zhen Wushuang and quietly pierced toward his heart. On the other hand, the petite old man with a golden hammer in each hand directly attacked Zhen Wushuang. However, the black sword and golden hammers failed to touch Zhen Wushuang's actual body but traveled through his figure instead. Whoosh! It was unknown when but Zhen Wushuang's body had appeared in a nearby void. He seems to have good speeds. The petite young man and the evil black-clothed woman immediately looked toward Zhen Wushuang. "I'm not interested in mediocre people." Zhen Wushuang mocked, but his eyes were fixated on the Purple Beast Alliance Master. The Purple Beast Alliance Master had extremely strong combat power among the peak heaven ultimate gods and is especially good at attacking and killing, but his physical protection capabilities can only be considered normal, mumbled Zhen Wushuang softly. He also obtained detailed information about the Purple Beast Alliance Master and his expert's true strength. He only dared to appear openly because he had all that information. The Dragon Divine Gang isn't weak whilst this Purple Beast Alliance is slightly stronger. I can subdue both forces, but I'll have to show my absolute strength to make both forces' experts surrender willingly. I have to kill this Purple Beast Alliance Master neatly. Zhen Wushuang had a cold look in his eyes while the magnificent divine power on his body had already expanded while a huge amount of golden divine power coagulated like crazy behind his back. The 3,000-meter-tall golden god shadow appeared behind Zhen Wushuang in the blink of an eye. The golden god shadow was extremely majestic as it looked down at everything in heaven and earth. At the same time, the 7 stars secret technique in Zhen Wushuang's body was also unleashed outward. The divine power on his body had immediately skyrocketed the moment he used the 7 stars secret technique. Those below Undying Saint could directly elevate their strength by an entire realm with the 7 stars secret technique scroll too. Zhen Wushuang was only a peak earth ultimate god, but his realm was directly raised to the primary level heaven ultimate god after displaying the 7 stars secret technique. The divine power he emitted was that of a peak heaven ultimate god stage under the black stone's disguise. His aura has strengthened. Peak heaven ultimate god, it's a peak heaven ultimate god's divine power. The expressions of many Purple Beast Alliance experts darkened. Even the Purple Beast Alliance Master, who initially did not pay much attention to Zhen Wushuang, also looked at him with a peculiar expression. Zhen Wushuang's combat power had been raised to an astonishing level after using both the 7 stars secret technique and divine god of punishment. These two secret techniques should be more than sufficient to kill this Purple Beast Alliance Master. Zhen Wushuang secretly smiled. He then directly made his move. His figure had only slightly moved forward, but it ended up with him directly crossing the lengthy distance and appearing in front of the crowd. The speed he burst out in that instant staggered the crowd. This speed, the Purple Beast Alliance Master was also startled. Bang! The Purple Beast Alliance Master banged on his throne's armrest as his divine power was immediately unleashed. His figure was like a primitive beast as he attacked Zhen Wushuang. "So what if you're fast?" "The battle between experts has never relied on speed," said the Purple Beast Alliance Master coldly as a domineering axe appeared in his hand. The axe could be identified as a high-level heavenly treasure as it looked extremely powerful. As the Alliance Master was about to wave the axe in his hand, Zhen Wushuang smiled indifferently before him as he slowly stretched out his palm and pointed at the area Purple Beast Alliance Master was located. A finger-pointing heavenly technique. A simple finger-pointing had evoked the space-time energy around that area. The Alliance Master's figure paused in the middle of the air without any warning. Although his body paused, his face still had that hideous expression along with his one hand raised while still maintaining the action of waving his axe. However, the space-time he was in had already completely paused. A finger-pointing heavenly technique, the divine technique Zhen Wushuang comprehended for 9 years before he barely grasped it. Although he had only barely grasped the technique and his strength was too low, Fully displaying that skill with his perception of the spacetime law at that moment was not something a usual peak heaven ultimate god could pull off. He could make the spacetime an ordinary peak heaven ultimate god was to fall into an extremely short stasis. The period was extremely short. It was just a moment that was even shorter than the blink of an eye. However, this short moment was enough to decide lots of matters in a fight between experts. It could be seen that Jian Wushuang's figure was unaffected at all and had already appeared in front of the Purple Beast Alliance Master. The latter remained in his axe-waving position but without the axe landing the entire time. The space-time where the Alliance Master was in only returned to normal when Jian Wushuang had waved his long sword. The Blood Mountain sword had attacked toward the Alliance Master like a poisonous snake and was only half a centimeter away from the Alliance Master's head. The Purple Beast Alliance Master could not react in time despite spacetime around him having already recovered. Slurp. The cold sword flitted through mercilessly and the Alliance Master's head had flown outward as his life had started to fade away. The Purple Beast Alliance Master still had that frightened expression on his face just before he died. How can he be so fast? The corners of his mouth were still mumbling softly. He was in a situation where both spacetime and his consciousness was stagnant. He had no idea about what happened during the time his consciousness was stagnant. Therefore, he still thought that Jian Wushuang killed him with incredible speed. He had no idea Jian Wushuang had used divine techniques. Although Jian Wushuang was fast, it was not so exaggerated. My divine power and spacetime law perspective are sufficient to fight with an ordinary peak heaven ultimate god. I'm the strongest among the experts of the Peak Heaven Ultimate God stage. Once I display the 7 stars secret technique and divine god of punishment. It's very easy to kill an ordinary Peak Heaven Ultimate God with this almost godlike finger-pointing heavenly technique. Jian Wushuang smiled indifferently. The Purple Beast Alliance experts surrounding them looked extremely stunned. In their impression, their Alliance Master was extremely strong since the previous Peak Heaven Ultimate God Dragon Divine Gang leader was directly killed by their Alliance Master. However, their powerful Alliance Master died in someone else's hands at that moment. In addition, it happened so fast. Chapter 2680, Surrender. It was really too fast. In just a short face-to-face moment, their Alliance Master's head had already been chopped off by somebody even before they had time to react. Cleanly and neatly killed by a sword cut. Why did this happen? Is this an illusion? How is it possible the Alliance Master was so easily killed? Could this Su Han be a grand ultimate god? Multiple pairs of horrified eyes were glued on Jian Wushuang's body as the Purple Beast Alliance experts were completely stunned. They were not the only ones, as the Dragon Divine Gang experts inside the Black Fortress were also completely stunned. Although they already knew that Jian Wushuang was strong from early on and could fight the Purple Beast Alliance Master, they only thought he could fight against him with a small chance of winning. The result was the Purple Beast Alliance Master being killed in a short moment. A Heaven Ultimate God in the Dragon Divine Gang said, "Did you guys notice how the Alliance Master seemed to pause for a short moment just now as though he was completely stunned on the spot?" Yes, Su Han must have displayed some sort of secret skill to cause this if I guessed correctly. The Purple Beast Alliance Master was completely powerless to resist and was directly killed because of this secret skill. What secret skill is that? It can make a person stop completely. I don't know, but it should be a secret skill regarding spacetime. The Heaven Ultimate Gods from the Dragon Divine Gang were discussing among themselves. All of them noticed that Jian Wushuang displayed a secret skill, but nobody knew which secret skill it was. They only knew it was an extremely special secret skill and played a huge part in the Purple Beast Alliance Master's instant death. It was indeed the truth. A finger-pointing heavenly technique was too frightening. Although I've previously barely grasped this skill, I've never used it against anybody yet and never totally understand its might. I've finally learned about it now. Jian Wushuang stood in the void as he was slightly shocked. He made a move to kill the Purple Beast Alliance Master for 2 reasons. Firstly, he wanted a clean kill to instigate the best shocking results. Secondly, he wanted to measure the power of the finger-pointing heavenly technique. Jian Wushuang discovered that he had belittled that secret skill after he used it. The Purple Beast Alliance Master was a Peak Heaven ultimate god. He was considered one of the strongest among the Peak Heaven ultimate gods, yet failed to withstand the attack after Jian Wushuang displayed the A-finger-pointing heavenly technique and entered a stagnated state before inexplicably killed by Jian Wushuang. This skill is really too powerful. Using it with just my current power, nobody among the Peak Heaven ultimate gods will be able to withstand it, apart from those who also have a high insight towards the space-time law. I'll be able to directly kill them, as they will be my target once they fail to withstand this skill of mine and enter a temporarily stagnated spacetime state. I'll be able to wipe out 90% of the Peak Heaven ultimate gods with this skill. If I include my large collection of skills and hidden tricks, I can be considered invincible among the ultimate heaven god. Jian Wushuang tightened his grips as the piercing look in his eyes intensified. The Purple Beast Alliance Master was dead, but the Alliance's Heaven Ultimate Gods were still there. Many among those Heaven Ultimate Gods were close subordinates of the Alliance Master, such as the petite old man who used hammers and were loyal toward the Alliance Master. These Heaven Ultimate Gods snapped out of their shock after a short while and reacted. He killed the Alliance Master. Kill him to avenge the Alliance Master. Attack. Many Heaven Ultimate Gods immediately took action and attacked Jian Wushuang under the petite old man's leadership. However, several people did not make any movements. Jian Wushuang glanced across these people as the look in his eyes turned cold. Boom! The scary sword world was directly extended as the Heaven Ultimate Gods attacking Jian Wushuang immediately felt his sword world suppression. They also activated their principal world in hopes to withstand the sword world. Although their principal world was almost at the profound achievement, their profound achievement worlds would still crumble like chicken coops under the suppression of Jian Wushuang's perfect sword world that stretched for 50,000 kilometers. Jian Wushuang moved his body following that. His ghost-like figure moved as though he was teleporting and appeared beside every Heaven Ultimate God before attacking with the Blood Mountain sword in his hand. These primary-level and high-level Heaven Ultimate Gods were incapable of reacting under that scary speed. The Heaven Ultimate Gods were mercilessly killed by Jian Wushuang one at a time. The sword slashed out as heads were cut off one by one like harvesting wheat. The Dragon Divine Gang experts in the Black Fortress felt shivers travel through their spines as they observed the occurrences. They were extremely familiar with this scene, as Jian Wushuang had attacked them as such 3 days ago, but with reserved strength at that time. However, at that moment, massacre. This is a total massacre. It's just like killing chickens. If Su Han had attacked us intending to kill 3 days ago, we'd also have been slaughtered by him. The people from the Dragon Divine Gang discussed among themselves with bated breaths. Within less than 2 breaths' time, the Heaven Ultimate Gods who wanted to avenge the Purple Beast Alliance Master, apart from a small number of people who escaped when they saw the situation, had been killed by Jian Wushuang. Among them included the petite old man. The void above Dragon City was covered in a huge amount of blood, with the entire place painted a crimson-red color. Bodies fell one by one and landed on the ground below before being laid spread across the ground, while Jian Wushuang stood alone in the middle of the void with the Blood Mountain sword in his hand, blood still slowly dripping from the blade's edge. He had a cold expression on his face as his cold eyes swept through the experts of the Purple Beast Alliance who escaped to their surroundings. Surrender or prepare to be wiped out. Jian Wushuang's demon-like voice echoed around the void above the Dragon City. Many of the remaining experts looked at each other when they heard Jian Wushuang's words and were secretly frightened. The evil black-clothed woman who previously attacked Jian Wushuang was the first to walk forward and respectfully said, "Lord Su Han, I, He Yang along with the Purple Beast Alliance experts are willing to surrender and honor you as our new Alliance Master." The remaining Purple Beast Alliance's Heaven Ultimate Gods also said in awe, "We're willing to surrender." The Purple Beast Alliance and Divine Dragon Gang were only gangs, not sects nor clans. They only believed in honoring the strongest as their master, as they were formed by a large group of experts with no ideals of absolute loyalty. Anybody strong could be their leader. The remaining people surrendered willingly once Jian Wushuang had shown his absolute frightening strength by killing those loyal to the previous Alliance Master like the petite old man. Chapter 2681. Sword Alliance Gen Wushuang smiled in satisfaction when he saw the Purple Beast Alliance experts that spread around had surrendered. He then walked towards the Black Fortress located below. In the Black Fortress, the Divine Dragon Gang experts rushed out with the graceful red-clothed lady leading them. The Divine Dragon Gang experts did not hesitate as they spoke loudly together at that moment. Greetings to the Gang Master. Gang Master? However, Gen Wushuang smiled with a hidden meaning before pointing at the graceful red-clothed lady. What's your name? Gang Master, Dong Shui, replied the graceful red-clothed lady immediately. Dong Shui and Hei Yang, I'm giving both of you 10 days. I want to see the Divine Dragon Gang and Purple Beast Alliance integrated after 10 days, said Gen Wushuang coldly. Integrated? Dong Shui and the evil-looking black-clothed woman were stunned before nodding with full obedience. Both Divine Dragon Gang and Purple Beast Alliance's highest authorities were willing to surrender under Gen Wushuang's feet at that moment, hence it was not difficult for both parties to completely integrate. In addition, the Divine Dragon Gang and Purple Beast Alliance shall be considered a new clan after the integration. I plan to name this clan Sword Alliance. Does anyone have any opinions? Gen Wushuang swept past the different clans' experts. It did not matter whether those experts were from the Dragon Divine Gang or the Purple Beast Alliance, all of them lowered their heads under Gen Wushuang's gaze. They had completely surrendered to Gen Wushuang so naturally, nobody dared say anything when Gen Wushuang mentioned a change in the clan's name. Therefore, the first clan that Gen Wushuang had set up in his ancient god domain lifetime, Sword Alliance, was born. In the Black Fortress, Gen Wushuang sat in the private room alone with an interspatial ring at hand. He obtained that interspatial ring from the dead Purple Beast Alliance Master. The previous Purple Beast Alliance Master was a peak heaven ultimate god and the ruler of a third-rated clan in the Danyang continent. Almost the entire many resources the Purple Beast Alliance owned were on him. In addition, he had also killed the Divine Dragon Gang Master, hence his net worth should be quite high. Gen Wushuang immediately checked it in detail, but slightly frowned after the check and was disappointed. This Purple Beast Alliance Master really had a high net worth with many cultivation resources, secret techniques, mystical weapons, and treasures. He also had a lot of primordial stones, a lot more than most peak heaven ultimate gods, to the extent that his net worth would not be a lot different compared to ordinary primary level grand ultimate gods. However, the Purple Beast Alliance Master did not have many divine elixir pills despite his high net worth, only 500 pieces. 500 divine elixir pills. It had to be understood that those previous gamble fights between Gen Wushuang and the Dragon Phoenix Pavilion disciples had won him around 1,800 divine elixir pills, which was 3 times more than the Purple Beast Alliance Master owned. I thought killing this Purple Beast Alliance Master will get me a batch of expensive divine elixir pills. However, it seems like it won't be that easy, thought Gen Wushuang secretly. However, he was able to understand as divine elixir pills were uncommon and hard to obtain. Most resource trades were carried out using primordial stones, with divine elixir pills rarely used. Just like the Crimson Stone Fort where Yin Sua controlled. She could only get him 800 divine elixir pills despite striving her hardest. In comparison, it seemed quite acceptable for him to obtain these 500 pills from the Purple Beast Alliance Master. As for the 1,800 divine elixir pills he received from the Dragon Phoenix Pavilion disciples, it was only because the Dragon Phoenix Pavilion was rich. I had almost 1,800 pills and now I've got another 500 pieces. That's 2,000 plus pieces altogether. There's still a huge difference with the amount I need to make a breakthrough from Peak Earth Ultimate God into the Primary Level Heaven Ultimate God. However, I'm not in a hurry. Gen Wushuang slightly smiled. He had just started implementing his plans and there were lots of chances to get divine elixir pills in the future. I have a clan under my control now that the Sword Alliance has been formed. Although it's just a third-rated clan of an area, it'll grow large enough to threaten those powerful clans as long as it continues to expand. Gen Wushuang was very confident with the Sword Alliance, to be exact he was confident in himself. 10 days later, the Dragon Divine Gang and the Purple Beast Alliance had completed their integration and formed the Sword Alliance. The name Sword Alliance had completely spread by then. In the Grand Hall, Gen Wushuang sat on a golden throne while Dong Shui, He Yang, Long Shan, and the middle-aged purple-haired man Zi Wang stood there respectfully. Alliance Master, these are sent by the Corpse Palace's people. They said that both their palace masters send you their greetings. Zi Wang passed an interspatial ring to Jian Wushuang. Corpse Palace? Jian Wushuang slightly frowned. Our Sword Alliance hasn't even thrown our establishment convention yet. Why did this Corpse Palace send us gifts? I don't know. They might want to greet you in advance, said Zi Wang. Jian Wushuang smiled and asked, Greet me? Our Sword Alliance is the integration of the Dragon Divine Gang and Purple Beast Alliance, so we have 2 cities under our control. We are no longer a small clan among those third-rated clans based on the land we own. Won't there be several people fixated on us? Dong Shui spoke, that isn't necessarily the case. Our domain is located at the edge of the Danyang continent and far from those huge clans. Those huge clans don't care much about this place. Although there are 5 clans near us, they are also just third-rated clans. You don't need to pay much notice to the other 4 of the 5 third-rated clans as their strength is equal to the Purple Beast Alliance. Now that the Purple Beast Alliance and Dragon Divine Gang have integrated into the Sword Alliance, we're much stronger than any of those 4 clans. Only the 5th clan, the Corpse Palace that sent these presents, is slightly nasty. Why? Jian Wushuang looked towards Dong Shui. Alliance Master. Although this Corpse Palace is also a third-rated clan, they are generally stronger than your usual third-rated clans. The Corpse Palace has more than 70 Heaven Ultimate Gods according to rumors with 2 Palace Masters. Both Palace Masters are at the peak Heaven Ultimate God stage, with one of them being the top among peak Heaven Ultimate Gods. The previous Purple Beast Alliance Master you killed once fought against that Corpse Palace Master and was easily beaten, said He Yang. He Yang was originally part of the Purple Beast Alliance and one of the previous Alliance Master's confidants. She saw the fight between the Alliance Master and the Corpse Palace Master. The power difference was huge. Apart from that, there's also news stating the Corpse Palace deals with the Star Fort and both of them have a good relationship, continued He Yang. Star Fort. Jian Wushuang's heart moved. He did not know much about Corpse Palace, but he surely knew of the Star Fort. Chapter 2682. Forming an army. The Star Fort was a second-rated clan of a location and considered one of the strongest among all second-rate clans in the Danyang continent. Its strength was close to that of a first-rate clan. The reason being their Star Fort master was a Grand Ultimate God. They were considered the first-rate clan as a Grand Ultimate God was personally attending to matters there. People normally would not provoke them unless it was necessary. This Corpse Palace is related to the Star Fort? Jian Wushuang slightly squinted his eyes. He wanted to carry out his plans, and that meant frantically expanding to their surrounding areas and had to conquer turf and resources without stopping to expand their strength. The third-rated clans around the Sword Alliance were his main target, hence he would naturally go head-on against the Corpse Palace. The Sword Alliance has just been formed and there's no hurry to expand it. It's best if we first stabilize it, mumbled Jian Wushuang before glancing at the group of 4 in front of him. Jian Wushuang then ordered, Dong Shui, the many properties in Dragon City will be under your control from today onward. I don't ask for much as I only want you to stabilize Dragon City while maintaining its previous benefits without huge problems appearing. He Yang, you're most familiar with the Purple Beast City that was originally under the Purple Beast Alliance's control. In placing the Purple Beast City in your hands now, Zi Wang, you'll be in charge of dealing with the other Sword Alliance's internal ordeals such as getting more experts and so on. All of you can discuss amongst yourself on dealing with matters that you come across in the future and directly deal with it. Only report to me when it's something important. Yes. Dong Shui, He Yang, and Zi Wang immediately took the orders. The 3 of them were slightly happy and surprised. They had no idea Jian Wushuang would give them such huge authority when he just integrated both clans to form the Sword Alliance. For each of them to manage a city while also discussing amongst themselves and resolving small and large matters was equivalent to completely assigning the Alliance Master's rights to them. However, had they not just surrendered and followed this Su Han? Why did Su Han trust them so much? They had no idea Jian Wushuang did not have the time to manage the Sword Alliance unlike them. He wanted to expand indefinitely. There would be too many issues to worry about, such as the Sword Alliance's expansion and strength increase. He would not have so much time to manage these matters at that time, so he ordered his subordinates early on to handle them. About the rights that he divided out, Jian Wushuang also did not care much about them. The world where the strongest had control after all. He alone represented the highest authority in the Sword Alliance. Long Shan. Jian Wushuang finally turned and glanced at the bald old man called Long Shan. Alliance Master, Long Shan also immediately greeted Jian Wushuang. He was slightly worried when Jian Wushuang appointed Dong Shui, He Yang, and Zi Wang with authorities but had not mentioned him. "There's something I'd like to assign you with," said Jian Wushuang. "Please go ahead, Alliance Master," replied Long Shan. "I want to reassign a group of Sword Alliance experts and form the Divine Sword Army," said Jian Wushuang. Divine Sword Army? Long Shan was stunned. Forming an army? Dong Shui, He Yang, and Zi Wang also had surprised expressions on their faces. In the Danyang continent, only top powerful clans like the Crimson Stone Fort, Life and Death Tower, and Nanwu Palace had formed their legions. The Crimson Stone Fort had the famous Crimson Stone Official Army. During the Crimson Stone Official Army's peak, even their most ordinary army member was a Heaven Ultimate God, and they were not even normal Heaven Ultimate Gods but the best among their peers, the geniuses from every level. Any random army members from the Crimson Stone Official Army at that time were true elites. They could be described as invincible as they had high combat powers alongside their special military and magic formations. The Crimson Stone Saint had relied on the Crimson Stone Official Army to expand his territory when he was still alive before finally founded the Crimson Stone Fort, which occupied an entire area in the Danyang Holy Domain. Although the Crimson Stone Fort had declined and the Crimson Stone Official Army was not as good as they were, many clans were still extremely afraid of them. The four top clans, Nanwu Palace, Divine Demon Sect, Life and Death Tower, and Dongfang Clan, had also trained their armies. Although they were slightly weaker compared to the Crimson Stone Official Army, they were still extremely frightening. Many first-rate clans in the Danyang continent had also built their legions or armies, but their effectiveness was low. Long Shan could not control himself and asked, "Alliance Master, our Sword Alliance has just finished the integration and just been born. No matter what, we're just a third-rated clan right now. Won't it be slightly too inadequate to set up an army right now?" "It's indeed slightly inadequate." Jian Wushuang also nodded in agreement. Apart from many strong experts, a complete legion not only needs a huge number of martial artists, but also all sorts of similar mystical weapons and treasures. The most important matter is that we also need all sorts of special military and magic formations. These things are extremely valuable. In addition, the fact that every soldier in the Legion has a high salary which totals up to an astronomical number. It's not something the Sword Alliance can endure right now. However, what I want right now isn't a complete army, but only the framework of an army. Zishan, how many Heaven Ultimate Gods does the Sword Alliance have under our control right now? Jian Wushuang asked. If we include ourselves, there's a total of 54 people, 10 high-level Heaven Ultimate Gods while the rest are primary-level Heaven Ultimate Gods, replied Zishan. That's sufficient. Jian Wushuang smiled calmly. Long Shan, I need you to build for me an army that consists of 30 Heaven Ultimate Gods within a year. Only 30? Long Shan's facial expression changed for the better. It's easy. The Sword Alliance has so many Heaven Ultimate Gods, hence I only need to promise them some benefits and there'll be many Heaven Ultimate Gods who'll join the army. Don't be happy so early on. I have my requirements. Jian Wushuang smiled. Not only do I need these 30 to all be Heaven Ultimate Gods, but I also need them to have extremely strong combat powers among their peers. In addition, you also need to think of ways to guarantee their loyalty. Loyalty? Long Shan frowned. Why? Is there a problem? Jian Wushuang glanced over at him. It's not difficult to find 30 extremely strong Heaven Ultimate Gods. I'll be able to entice many strong Heaven Ultimate Gods to join as long as I promise enough benefits. However, it'll be too difficult to guarantee their loyalty. In truth, Our Sword Alliance isn't a clan or family that gives an extremely huge sense of belonging. We're only an ordinary clan consisting of experts joining our Sword Alliance due to benefits. There's an 80% chance of them leaving if the benefits are insufficient. We also don't have any methods to restrain them, said Long Shan. That's true. Jian Wushuang secretly nodded as he knew what Long Shan said was true. We don't need their complete loyalty if that's the case, but only their capabilities to fight for my Sword Alliance. Chapter 2683. A few tens to 100 billion. It's not difficult to make them willingly fight for the Sword Alliance, but we'll need to support them with lots of resources. In another word, we've to give them the benefits they want, said Long Shan. Jian Wushuang of course knew that people work for the sake of benefit. Experts who joined the Dragon Divine Gang, Purple Beast Alliance, Corpse Palace, and even the many powerful forces in the Danyang continent were after benefits offered. They would leave once nothing grabbed their interest. However, those sects and clans were different. They had nurtured their experts for generations, hence their disciples and followers had a strong sense of belonging. They would fight for their sects and clans even when there was nothing to reap, to the extent they might even be willing to give up their lives for their sects and clans. Sword Alliance must be prepared to provide them with lucrative benefits if Sword Alliance were to win the experts' hearts. It'll find a way to solve matters about resources. All you need to do is to find a way to form an official army as soon as possible. Don't be afraid to recruit too many experts as long as you find someone suitable, as I won't be limiting it to only 30 people. We can even do 50 or 100. There are 200 million primordial stones in this interspatial ring. Use it for now and come look for me when you run out of primordial stones. Jian Wushuang handed an interspatial ring to Long Shan. Jian Wushuang had heaps of primordial stones on hand but could not possibly give all of them at once to Long Shan. Jian Wushuang had not fully trusted Long Shan after all. Yes. Long Shan took the interspatial ring with his eyes sparkling in excitement. Okay, all of you may go. Jian Wushuang waved his hand. The 4 people immediately bowed and left. Jian Wushuang was still sitting alone in the hall. Jian Wushuang murmured, I have never really built a sect before, hence I didn't have any idea about these training resources. However, I now know how important they are. I have a lot of resources now from receiving 1 billion primordial stones at one go when I sold 10 catties of royal blood gems to the star-picking pavilion. I'm afraid I'll need a lot more if I were to form a decent-sized official army that's willing to fight for me. It seems that I'll have to find Yin Sua. Jian Wushuang immediately left for the sacred palace after having made a decision. He first went for palace keeper Sai Zhan instead of directly looking for Yin Sua. In the palace. Jian Yi, what brought you here? Palace keeper Sai Zhan asked while standing in front of Jian Wushuang. He once told Jian Wushuang to ask help from the 2 sacred palace elders if he needed anything, and for Jian Wushuang to see him only meant that Jian Wushuang must have some important matters to discuss. I need a large batch of primordial stones, replied Jian Wushuang. How much do you need? Palace keeper Sai Zhan was indifferent. Jian Wushuang asked for divine elixir pills when he first arrived at the sacred palace, which Yin Sua tried her best and managed to get him 800 pieces. Palace keeper was not surprised if Jian Wushuang would do the same for primordial stones if that was how Jian Wushuang asked for divine elixir pills. Not many, I'd like to have just a few tens and up to 100 billion of them, replied Jian Wushuang casually. What did you say? Palace keeper Sai Zhan stared wide-eyed at Jian Wushuang. You think a few tens or 100 billion primordial stones isn't a lot? Jian Yi, you do ask brazenly, don't you? There was an obvious trace of anger in Palace keeper Sai Zhan's tone. What a joke. Although the primordial stone was far less rare and precious than divine elixir pills, it was used in all kinds of goods exchanges and transactions in the Danyang Holy Domain. Scorpion King was killed because of the blood gems he managed to retrieve from the blood gem mineral vein, which only totaled up to 37 billion primordial stones. It was a huge amount of wealth even for Yin Sua, and managed to slightly lift her pressure due to that batch of primordial stones she got from those blood gems. Yin Suo might not refuse if Palace Keeper Saizhen asked her for 100 million to 200 million primordial stones or even 2 billion to 3 billion primordial stones. However, Jian Wushuang was asking for up to 100 billion primordial stones. What was with his request? Jian Yi, the fort master respects you as someone invited by the old fort master and ordered us to fulfill your request as much as possible to help you improve your strength, but your request is too much. Why will a peak earth ultimate god like you need a few tens or even 100 billion primordial stones? Palace Keeper Saizhen stared at Jian Wushuang in disbelief. I want these primordial stones because I need a lot of resources to build up a force and expand it, said Jian Wushuang. Build up a force? Palace Keeper Saizhen's expression sank before he continued, you should be aware of the situation the fort master is facing now as it is. Do you think the fort master can get a few tens and up to 100 billion primordial stones? I'm afraid she'll have to pay a hefty price for it even if she can. I know, so this time I won't be asking without offering an exchange. I'll give you something in exchange. No, it should be that I'm giving you something in hopes you can help me find a way to liquidate this thing. You'll be getting either divine elixir pills or primordial stones after disposing of this thing, said Jian Wushuang. What is it? Palace Keeper Saizhen asked. Jian Wushuang did not intend to continue hiding it as he flipped his hand and took out a blood-colored blood gem the size of a baby's fist. The blood-colored blood gem was the second royal blood gem in Jian Wushuang's hands. The first royal blood gem was only the size of a thumb and weighed 10 catties. The second one was the size of a baby's fist and weighed more than 200 catties. This is... Palace Keeper Saizhen stared wide-eyed at the blood-colored blood gem. Royal blood gem. This is the royal blood gem. Yes, it's the royal blood gem and I think this one weighs around 230 catties. However, I don't know how much it's worth. Jian Wushuang smiled. 230 catties of royal blood gem? Palace Keeper Saizhen drew in a sharp breath of cold air. He was excited while looking intently at the royal blood gem. He was also obviously coveting the royal blood gem caused by the green-eyed monster in him. Jian Wushuang also noticed the greed in Palace Keeper Saizhen's eyes but was not worried that Palace Keeper Saizhen would make a move. Jian Wushuang was trying to honor the agreement with Crimson Stone Saint to help Yin Suo after all. He would be much at ease if Palace Keeper Saizhen tried to rob the royal blood gem from him as he could just leave and no longer paid any attention to the Crimson Stone Fort's affairs along with Yin Suo's survival in that case. Palace Keeper Saizhen would of course not be doing something so foolish. Jian Yi, how come you have such a big and heavy piece of royal blood gem? Is this from the blood gem mineral vein? Palace Keeper Saizhen exclaimed in a low voice. I obtained this by luck and it has nothing to do with the mineral vein. Jian Wushuang shook his head. He would of course not admit that the royal blood gem was obtained from that mineral vein. Chapter 2684, Master Mo. Palace Keeper Saizhen frowned but did not press on with further questions. Royal blood gem is one of the main materials for refining holy treasures. It's extremely valuable with many undying saints wanting to get their hands on it. The royal blood gem weighs 230 catties so its value must be extravagant. However, it was just too expensive that many experts could not afford to buy it, said Palace Keeper Saizhen. That's why I'll hand this royal blood gem to you so that Crimson Stone Fort can deal with it. Jian Wushuang smiled faintly. Jian Wushuang knew that only Star Picking Pavilion could afford to purchase the 230 catties of royal blood gem in the entire Danyang Holy Domain. Jian Wushuang had sold 10 catties royal blood gem in the Wuxire territory at a way too low price. He had no choice but to sell it at a very low price to the Star Picking Pavilion at that time because he could not find someone else to buy it. He did not want to suffer the same losses again. In addition, he had nowhere else to sell the royal blood gem with the only channel he could go through was the Crimson Stone Fort. The fort master must have a way to sell this off but I'm afraid it'll take a while. How many resources are you asking in exchange for this royal blood gem? Palace Keeper Saizhen asked. I only need 10,000 divine elixir pills and 100 billion primordial stones. This piece of royal blood gem should be worth much more than that of course, hence I'll give the extra to your fort master. Jian Wushuang smiled. Well, I'll go see the fort master now and ask her to decide. Palace keeper Sai Zhen went to see Yin Sua immediately with excitement. Jian Wushuang was not in a hurry and waited quietly in the hall. The royal blood gem weighs 230 catties? Yin Sua was also quite surprised when she heard about it. Yes, I saw it with my own eyes, answered palace keeper Sai Zhen solemnly. Jian Yi has such a large piece of royal blood gem? Could it be from the interspatial ring Scorpion King gave him? Yin Sua squinted before immediately shook her head. No, Scorpion King is loyal to me and told me exactly how many blood gems he received from that blood gem mineral vein with no royal blood gems. The Scorpion King won't lie to me. If that's the case, this royal blood gem must be as he said he got it by chance. It's that, or he had probably hidden it in advance upon discovering the royal blood gem when the official army guarded over the mineral vein. Regardless, he got it using his own ability in any case, so we can't penalize him. It's true as Jian Yi is still somewhat conscientious and said that he only needs 10,000 divine elixir pills and 100 billion primordial stones after we sold the royal blood gem. He'll offer the rest of it to you, said palace keeper Sai Zhen. The price of the 230 catties of royal blood gem is indeed more than what he asked for. Of course, it also depends on who it is sold to. Yin Sua had a cold expression. There are only those few among the 9 realms of Golden Crow who can take up this royal blood gem. The Star-Picking Pavilion is the only chamber of commerce among those few. Do you want to sell it to the Star-Picking Pavilion or? Yin Sua waved and interrupted before palace keeper Sai Zhen finished talking. Although the Star-Picking Pavilion is the first-ranked chamber of commerce, they are the worst choice. They won't be able to sell the royal blood gem for a high price unless they organize a large-scale auction by gathering various experts. Any treasure can only be sold at its greatest value to those people who really need it. The people who are most eager to get it are naturally those high-level refining masters, since this royal blood gem is a refining material after all. Refining master? Palace keeper Sai Zhen was puzzled but immediately thought of someone. Fort master, are you talking about Master Mo? Yes, it's him. A smile appeared on Yin Sua's face. Master Mo isn't only recognized as the #1 refining master in the 9 realms of Golden Crow, but also a powerful undying saint. His influence and resources are beyond my imagination. Even father had a lot of respect for Master Mo when he was alive and didn't dare to rub Master Mo in the wrong way. Master Mo's reputation has always been good. Many people have taken the initiative to send him some precious refining materials. He'll also pay a good matching price as long as the resources are precious and rare. On the other hand, the Star-Picking Pavilion only cares about profit, so they'll try to keep the price low while Master Mo won't be bothered to do so. Besides, Master Mo should be quite happy to see the royal blood gem. Correct, Master Mo will never be greedy and snatch the royal blood gem away. Fort master can safely sell the royal blood gem to him. Palace keeper Sai Zhen nodded his approval as he had heard of Master Mo. I visit him. I can only find a way to get someone trustworthy and bring a message to Master Mo, tell him I have a royal blood gem here. I don't know how or when Master Mo will reply to me, so, Yin Sua narrowed her eyes. Go and ask Jian Yi to hand over the royal blood gem to me. I'll try my best to deal with it, but I'm unsure how much time it'll take. He'll have to wait. As for what he wants, I can't give him much of the divine elixir pills if he needs that cultivation resources urgently, but I can give him 10 billion of primordial stones first. I'll give the remaining divine elixir pills and primordial stones to him after we sell the royal blood gem. Yes. Palace keeper Sai Zhen responded and went back to the sacred palace. Yin Sua stood with a wide beam on her face. 230 catties of royal blood gem. Jian Yi, you've really helped me a lot. In a hall in the sacred palace, palace keeper Sai Zhen had once again appeared in front of Jian Wushuang. Fort master requests that you give the royal blood gem to her first, Jian Yi. She'll find a way to deal with it, but it'll take some time. Meanwhile, she can give you 10 billion primordial stones first if you are in urgent need of resources. Palace keeper Sai Zhen retold Jian Wushuang Yin Sua's words. All right. Jian Wushuang nodded. He understood that it would not be easy even if Yin Sua personally wanted to deal with such a large piece of royal blood gem. It was normal that she needed a certain amount of time. Yin Suo promised to give Jian Wushuang 10 billion primordial stones first, which was enough for him to squander some time. Palace Keeper Sai Zhen, there are 2 more matters that I need your help for, said Jian Wushuang again. Chapter 2685, Chief Steward Let's Talk. Palace Keeper Sai Zhen smiled faintly. Palace Keeper Sai Zhen was obviously quite happy because of the royal blood gem. I used to be the Northern Darkstar Territorial Lord and have a maid in the Northern Darkstar Territory called Xiao Taishan. She's quite capable of managing resources. I was separated from her since the Life and Death Tower and Divine Demon sect put a bounty on my head. She's probably still fleeing everywhere within the Northern Darkstar Territory. Can I ask Palace Keeper Sai Zhen to send someone to pick her up and send her here to help me? Jian Wushuang explained. This is simple. Just tell me where she is and I'll immediately send someone to pick her up. It won't take long, said Palace Keeper Sai Zhen. The Northern Darkstar Territory was a little far away from the Danyang continent, as it took Jian Wushuang nearly 40 years to arrive at the Danyang continent. The reason was that Jian Wushuang did not use the spatial passage to travel between the stellar regions. Palace Keeper Sai Zhen naturally would not mind using the spatial passages, hence he could quickly travel back and forth between the Danyang continent and the Northern Darkstar Territory. There's a second matter, said Jian Wushuang again. I need some military formations or some type of special formations that can be used by a few people altogether. Military formations? Special formations? Palace Keeper Sai Zhen frowned slightly. What do you want these things for? Are you trying to form an official army? Just let me handle this. Jian Wushuang smiled mysteriously. Palace Keeper Sai Zhen shrugged and said, the strongest military formation in Crimson Stone Fort is in the hands of the Crimson Stone official army and will never be passed on to anyone. Even if the fort master personally asks for it, she may not be able to get it from the Blood Thunder King. However, ordinary military formations and magic formations such as those military formations used by various stellar regions' official army in Danyang Holy Domain, I can help you get them. I can also get some of those lower-level magic formations as well. Those ordinary military formations and low-level magic formations are more than enough. Jian Wushuang smiled. The official army he was setting up was not ready yet, therefore some ordinary military and magic formations were good enough. Wait here for a while, said Palace Keeper Sai Zhen before he turned and left. Palace Keeper Sai Zhen reappeared in front of Jian Wushuang after nearly half a day and handed an interspatial ring to Jian Wushuang at the same time. Here are 10 billion primordial stones and the military formations you asked for. I've already ordered someone to bring your maid here. She'll be here in the Danyang continent in less than 10 days and I'll send a message to tell you when that happens, said Palace Keeper Sai Zhen. Thanks a lot. Jian Wushuang thanked him and left after taking the interspatial ring. He did not return to the Sword Alliance but stayed in the Sacred Palace to wait quietly. 8 days later, Xiao Taishan came to Jian Wushuang under the personal guidance of 2 heaven ultimate gods. Master. Xiao Taishan looked extremely excited to see Jian Wushuang again. Shina, it's been a long time since I last saw you. Jian Wushuang smiled faintly and also noticed the divine power of Xiao Taishan. Xiao Taishan was still the same as before, just a primary-level ultimate god. Xiao Txin's strength had not improved at all after so many years. Jian Wushuang could only secretly sigh. Xiao Taishan could be regarded as a genius, but she had used some taboo secret techniques which greatly damaged her foundation and limited her strength. It was becoming way too difficult for her to make a breakthrough after reaching the very top of the primary-level ultimate god realm. Xiao Taishan looked at Jian Wushuang again after a simple greeting. Master, how far are you now in your cultivation realm? I think the 2 masters who came to pick me up before seem to be very powerful. Of course they are powerful. They are both heaven ultimate gods after all. Jian Wushuang smiled. Heaven ultimate gods? Xiao Taishan was shocked. Heaven ultimate gods. In an ordinary stellar region, an earth ultimate god could become the territorial lord and be a respectable ruler. Heaven ultimate gods were simply out of her league to Xiao Taishan. However, her master could get 2 heaven ultimate gods to pick her up in person, How high was her master's cultivation realm? Shina, come with me first. We'll talk as we go. Jian Wushuang led Xiao Taishan directly toward the Sword Alliance. Jian Wushuang began to explain many things to Xiao Taishan along the way. Xiao Taishan was shocked when she found out that Jian Wushuang had already created a powerful alliance with dozens of heaven ultimate gods and was flattered when she knew Jian Wushuang's purpose in bringing her back. It turns out Master brought me here to help him manage his large alliance. Xiao Taishan held her hands together in excitement. It did not take long before they returned to the Sword Alliance. Jian Wushuang immediately summoned Dong Shui, He Yang, Long Shan, and Zi Wang as soon as he arrived at Sword Alliance. Let me introduce my maid to you. This is Shina. All the resources and income from various Sword Alliance's belongings, including the many resources I have on hand, will be handed over to her from today onward. You can look for her if you need any primordial stones or resources in the future. Shall be the chief steward of the Sword Alliance. Jian Wushuang glanced around at the four people. The four people looked at each other and nodded their heads. They kept stealing glances at Xiao Taishan a few times in puzzlement. All of them could see that Xiao Taishan was just an ordinary ultimate god, a primary-level ultimate god. She was extremely weak, such that anyone from the Sword Alliance was much stronger than her. Why would a person like her be appointed as the chief steward of the Sword Alliance? It seems that the Alliance Master has a lot of trust in her, muttered the four people secretly in their hearts. It was indeed impossible for Xiao Taishan to control all the resources within the Sword Alliance if Jian Wushuang had no absolute trust in her. The most important matter for a force was wealth and resources. As long as the wealth and resources were sufficient, there would be a steady stream of powerful experts joining the force. That was the true lifeline of a force, and generally, the person in charge was the one who controlled both wealth and resources. Even though Shina is not powerful, she has the full authority to represent me. Her orders will be mine from now on. You'll be killed without mercy if you dare to violate her authority as the chief steward. Do you understand? Jian Wushuang said coldly. Yes. Dong Shui and the others nodded their heads and very humbly paid obeisance to Shina at the same time. Okay, all of you may go now. Jian Wushuang waved his hand and the four immediately left. Jian Wushuang looked at Xiao Taishan after they left. He smiled and asked, Shina, how do you feel? Somewhat excited. Xiao Taishan sighed. Master, were those four people just now also heaven ultimate gods? Yes. However, they are your subordinates starting from today. You can order them at any time. Jian Wushuang smiled. Chapter 2686. Divine Sword Official Army. Those heavenly ultimate gods are my subordinates. Xiao Taishan was a little dazed. Of course. Although your strength is too weak, these people will obey your orders now because of me. However, it will be difficult for you to control them one day if I leave the Danyang Holy Domain, so you've to seize the opportunity and do your best now that I have given you such high authority. You have to cultivate your power as much as possible, alright? Jian Wushuang advised Xiao Taishan. He was going to leave the Danyang Holy Domain sooner or later, and the Sword Alliance would be left to the care of those he trusted. Xiao Taishan was the best candidate, but her cultivation realm was too weak, so she must find a way to cultivate her strength. I see. Xiao Taishan nodded slightly. She was the eldest young miss of a clan and had gone through a lot, so she would know what to do. This interspatial ring is for you. Jian Wushuang handed an interspatial ring to Xiao Taishan. After Xiao Taishan took it, she was shocked after she browsed through its content. Primordial stones. There are so many primordial stones. How many are there altogether? Xiao Taishan was horrified. Not much, maybe around 2 billion. Jian Wushuang smiled. 2 billion? Xiao Taishan gaped. She became a little emotional and was unable to calm down for quite some time. 2 billion primordial stones isn't much to form an official army in the Sword Alliance. To do so will cost a lot of primordial stones. Long Shan will ask you for primordial stones. You can give it to him as long as his request is for the official army. I'll give these 2 billion to you first. Come and look for me if it's not enough, said Jian Wushuang. Understood. Xiao Taishan nodded firmly. You are too weak. Go see Dong Shui and get her to find 2 powerful and reliable guards to be your followers. Go on then. Jian Wushuang waved his hand. Xiao Taishan immediately left. In the palace, Jian Wushuang sat on the throne and tapped his fingers on the armrest. The current sword alliance has just formed and the official army has just been established. I'd better just stay put before the divine sword official army combat prowess becomes powerful. Jian Wushuang faintly smiled and soon went into seclusion. He wanted to take the opportunity of his seclusion to absorb those divine elixir pills. Earlier, he managed to get nearly 1,800 divine elixir pills from the Dragon Phoenix Pavilion disciples and 500 divine elixir pills after slaying the Purple Beast Alliance Master. He had nearly 2,300 divine elixir pills at hand. The pure divine power from those divine elixir pills was too much even with his refining speed. It would take a long time for him to absorb and refine all of them. It took a year and 3 months before those nearly 2,300 divine elixir pills were finally completely absorbed and refined by Jian Wushuang. Just as he expected, he still failed to break through to Heaven Ultimate God Realm after refining all those 2,300 divine elixir pills, but was not too far from it. Jian Wushuang estimated he would need at most 2,000 more divine elixir pills to make a breakthrough to the primary level Heaven Ultimate God Realm. Once he became the Heaven Ultimate God, he would once again usher in a qualitative change to his strength. There would not only be a huge increase in the level of divine power, but the key was the many secret techniques he cultivated would also greatly improve. In the void above Dragon City, Jian Wushuang, Xiao Taishan, and Long Shan were walking alongside each other with 2 extremely powerful primary-level Heaven Ultimate Gods behind him. Those 2 primary-level Heaven Ultimate Gods were chosen by Xiao Taishan to protect her. It did not take long for the group of people to arrive over a huge camp. Alliance Master, this is the Divine Sword Official Army Barracks. I'll gather all the soldiers, said Long Shan before heading toward the camp. Shina, how many primordial stones did Long Shan take from you? Jian Wushuang asked. I've given him 1.5 billion. 3/4 of the 2 billion primordial stones you gave me have been given to him, replied Xiao Taishan. It took more than a year to spend 1.5 billion primordial stones. This divine sword official army should have begun to take shape, commented Jian Wushuang. The many soldiers of the divine sword official army soon gathered together and were divided into 5 rows standing in lines. Jian Wushuang stood high in the sky and looked down. There were a total of 50 soldiers, each wearing black armor with special secret patterns. That black armor was a heavenly treasure-level defensive armor with an amazingly high value. Each of them was worth about 15 million primordial stones, 50 pieces. The defensive armor alone cost nearly 800 million primordial stones. Those soldiers were exuding an amazing divine power breath, with every single one of them being a Heaven Ultimate God. They were the elites among the Heaven Ultimate Gods. 50 soldiers stood there carrying a very strong breath of combat power. Jian Wushuang and Xiao Taishan immediately went down and appeared in front of Long Shan. Alliance Master, you told me that it's enough to form a 30-member official army in a short period, but we now have 50 members thanks to the rich resources provided by Miss Shina. All these 50 very capable people are Heaven Ultimate Gods elites. In addition, they have mastered most of the military formations you gave them. There are 5 members in a small team. Each team comprises a high-level Heaven Ultimate God and 4 primary-level Heaven Ultimate Gods. They have great combat power when paired with the military formations, said Long Shan. Not bad. Jian Wushuang nodded approvingly. His first impression of the Divine Sword official army was good. Hey! Jian Wushuang suddenly got startled as he noticed 3 people seemed to look the same among the 10 soldiers standing in the front row. Even their divine power breaths were also the same, as all 3 of them were high-level Heaven Ultimate Gods. Who are those 3? Jian Wushuang pointed at those 3 people. Those are the 3 brothers of the Zhao family. The 3 of them are triplets. Long Shan smiled and then he shouted, Zhao Tianshan, Zhao Tianhe, and Zhao Tianhai, step out. Each of the 3 Zhao brothers was extremely beefy and tall, like 3 small hills. They immediately stepped forward after hearing Long Shan's comment. At the same time, The three brothers were also looking at Jian Wushuang. "Brother, who's that person?" Zhao Tianhai asked. "I haven't seen him before, but Long Shan has a very high status in the Sword Alliance. The only person who will be treated with such respect must be the Sword Alliance Master," said Zhao Tianshan. "Sword Alliance Master? How is he only a high-level ultimate god realm? Isn't he in the same realm as us?" Zhao Tianhe muttered. "It's kind of interesting that the triplets not only look the same and so are their cultivation realm." Jian Wushuang smiled. He had also met a pair of twin brothers when he was walking in the Dark Thunder territory of the Northern Darkstar territory. The twin brothers had excellent tacit understanding and even created a set of fusion attack techniques. Their strength was quite extraordinary. Those high-level heaven ultimate god triplets looked rather extraordinary. Chapter 2687, The Three Zhao Brothers. "The three of you, hurry up and meet the Alliance Master," shouted Long Shan in a low voice. The three Zhao brothers hesitated. Zhao Tianhai, the youngest of the three brothers, strangely said, "Commander Long Shan, is he really the Alliance Master? How come he's just a high-level heaven ultimate god like us? He doesn't look very powerful." Jian Wushuang was startled when he heard that. How presumptuous! Long Shan yelled and was just about to scold them. "It doesn't matter." Jian Wushuang waved his hand before slowly stepped forward, looked at the three brothers, and faintly smiled. "What do you think is necessary to become an Alliance Master? The Sword Alliance controls 2 cities and is considered extremely strong among the third-rated forces in the Danyang continent. Now that they even have the Divine Sword official army, the Alliance Master has to be at least a peak heaven ultimate god," said Zhao Tianhai. "Peak heaven ultimate god?" Jian Wushuang smiled speechlessly. "Sometimes, a person's cultivation realm can't represent everything. Why don't we have a battle since you feel that I'm not powerful enough to become the Alliance Master? The three if you can join forces and fight against me and see who wins. How about that? A battle?" Zhao Tianhai was surprised. "Alliance Master, are you sure?" The eldest brother, Zhao Tianshan, looked over quizzically. "We three brothers have a good tacit understanding and work extremely well together. Each of our combat powers is already extremely strong among the high-level heaven ultimate gods. We can fight with a peak heaven ultimate god when the three of us work together." "Really? I'm looking forward to it even more then. Let's do it." Jian Wushuang beckoned at the three brothers. The three brothers looked at each other and knew what each other was going to do next without even talking. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. Those three hill-like figures moved all of a sudden. Their divine power breath increased and had a terrifying sense, just like 3 living beasts. The 3 of them appeared in front of Jian Wushuang in the blink of an eye and attacked at the same time with their sabers flung out. Bam! 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 3 bright saber lights fell almost at the same time, with each slashing toward Jian Wushuang from 3 different directions. The 3 of them positioned their attacks from 3 very tricky directions. It effectively blocked Jian Wushuang's figure, leaving him with no possibility of evading. The cooperation between these 3 is impeccable. Jian Wushuang nodded secretly. He immediately drew out his Blood Mountain sword and mustered his divine power. Clang! 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 There were 3 repeated low-impact sounds of collision before the 3 brothers were sent retreating backward. That's so powerful. Although he's only a high-level heaven ultimate god, his divine power breath is probably very close to a peak heaven ultimate god. Brothers. The youngest brother, Zhao Tianhai, glanced at his 2 older brothers. A magnificent gush of divine power emerged from the 3 of them before instantly condensing together. Rumbling. An extremely violent black mystical ape with a height of 100 feet appeared out of thin air under the trio's joint efforts. The black mystical ape exuded an earth-shattering aura breath. It tilted its head back and roared as soon as it appeared. The roar came with a terrifying sonic attack which gave many heaven ultimate gods a scare. The black mystical ape suddenly charged forward. The 3 brothers indeed are also capable of executing fusion attack techniques, and their strength isn't bad. The black mystical ape they formed together doesn't seem weaker than an average peak heaven ultimate god, whispered Jian Wushuang before lunging forward and was already in front of the black mystical ape. A huge sword shadow formed out of thin air upon a sudden wave of his Blood Mountain sword in his hand. The black mystical ape was tumbling around with its mystical energy as it growled. It then fiercely flexed its sturdy arm and huge as a star fist that carrying an earth-shattering power before slamming right down at Jian Wushuang. Bang! There was a loud noise from the collision of the towering sword shadow with the mystical ape's fist. The light quickly died down along with the sword shadow's collapse. This mighty power is even stronger than an ordinary peak heaven ultimate god. Jian Wushuang was a little surprised as his figure instantly retreated. A part of that terrifying power acted on Jian Wushuang's divine body, but it could not do much to him. "Alliance Master, is this all you've got?" A magnificent voice came from the black mystical ape. Inside the black mystical ape, the eyes of the three Zhao brothers shone with intense excitement. The three brothers had been together since they were born and had improved their strengths together. They had also created a fusion attack technique which allowed their combat power when working together to become far greater than their individual strength. The three of them seemed to be just high-level heaven ultimate gods at first glance, but when the three formed that black mystical ape, even a peak ultimate god had to retreat. I'm being underestimated. Jian Wushuang laughed instead of being angry upon hearing the black mystical ape and made a move again. The majestic golden divine power gathered madly behind him while he was moving and condensed into a 5,000-foot-high golden god shadow in the blink of an eye. His phantom was much taller and stronger than the three Zhao brothers' black mystical ape. Jian Wushuang raised the Blood Mountain sword with both hands and sent out the sword again. He still did not use any sword techniques. It was just a slash of pure power, but when the longsword was sent out, it contained endless spacetime strength with two spacetime blades integrated into that sword strike. A horrible swordlight emerged suddenly as the longsword fell. The swordlight was more powerful than the one Jian Wushuang performed previously. The most important matter was the two spacetime blades contained in the swordlight. That was the real horror. Whoa! The void frantically screamed under the swordlight's pressure. The three Zhao brothers in the black mystical ape seemed to have sensed the swordlight's power and dared not be careless. They immediately used their full strength, causing the black mystical ape to roar again, and swung out its two sturdy arms. However, the result was, the swordlight slash with its horrible strangling power and instantly smashed the black mystical ape's arms. What? The three Zhao brothers were surprised and immediately retreated. "Haha, don't run so quickly." Jian Wushuang laughed. The long sword in his hand was placed horizontally and slashed again. The sword driven by the Blood Mountain sword's power smashed the black mystical ape again and again. Jian Wushuang's divine power was close to a peak heaven ultimate god. The power of his sword every attack had greatly leveled up when paired with the divine god of punishment secret technique and the two spacetime blades that he had been enlightened from the spacetime law. Chapter 2688, 7 Absolute City Boom. 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 Jian Wushuang treated the Blood Mountain sword in his hand like a stick and struck the black mystical ape again and again. His terrifying power erupted completely and the black mystical ape obviously was unable to resist. It kept retreating and stumbling backward. The divine power breath in the mystical ape was also fading crazily. "Alliance Master, we surrender. We surrender. Alliance Master, please be merciful." The voices of the three Zhao brothers resounded from inside the mystical ape. Jian Wushuang disregarded their pleas and carried on with the attack. He suppressed the black mystical ape until it completely collapsed and disintegrated before finally stopping. "Now, do you think him qualified to be the Sword Alliance Master?" Jian Wushuang smiled and looked at the three Zhao brothers. However, his smile made the three Zhao brothers shudder with eyes full of horror when they looked at Jian Wushuang. "How can this be? He's obviously only a high-level heaven ultimate god, but why is his power so strong? We three brothers are the best at power. The black mystical ape formed by our fusion attack technique is also based on power. Even an ordinary peak ultimate god would retreat when facing our black mystical ape, but the Alliance Master had completely relied on his power to crush us. Awesome. Alliance Master is simply amazing. The three brothers secretly admired. The three of them were simple and honest. They only honored the strong as their leader. They were a little unconvinced when they saw that Zhen Wushuang, the Sword Alliance Master, was just a high-level heaven ultimate god like them. However, they were convinced after the battle where Zhen Wushuang crushed them with his power. The fact that Zhen Wushuang crushed their best-performing technique had gained their recognition. Alliance Master, how do you feel? Long Shan and Xiao Taishin walked over to Zhen Wushuang. The three Zhao brothers are not bad. The three of them can compete against an ordinary peak heaven ultimate god. As for the other soldiers, I've not fought with them so I can't see where their level of strength is. Let's do this. They can come and train with me together tonight, said Zhen Wushuang. Yes. Long Shan nodded. At night, the bright moon hung high in the sky. Zhen Wushuang set off with Long Shan and the 50 soldiers of the Divine Sword official army. A large group of figures was skimming along on the void. Alliance Master, where are we going? Long Shan, who was by Zhen Wushuang's side, asked quizzically. Don't ask first. You'll know very soon. Zhen Wushuang smiled. Long Shan dared not ask further. Their group traveled all night and finally appeared before a big city in the morning the next day. That's the 7 Absolute City. Long Shan was shocked when he saw the city before him. 7 Absolute City belongs to the 7 Absolute Palace. Alliance Master, do you want to attack the 7 Absolute Palace? Why, can't I? Zhen Wushuang smiled. He had planned it a long time ago. There were 5 major forces in the Sword Alliance, all of which were only third-rated forces, with the Corpse Palace being the strongest. The Sword Alliance was formed not long ago, and while the Divine Sword official army was being created, he had been holding back on making a move. However, he no longer needed to hide his plan and began to expand after the Divine Sword official army development. The 7 Absolute Palace was one of those third-rated forces, and Zhen Wushuang was determined to take it down in one blow. Alliance Master, the 7 Absolute Palace is a third-rated force after all. Not only is its strength not weak, but is also complicated. Should we put this down on a long-term plan? Long Shan asked worriedly. It was not a trifling matter to attack a third-rated force. Under normal circumstances, Zhen Wushuang should have gathered many high-level experts in the Sword Alliance to carefully discuss it and best to make full preparations before doing it. However, there was obviously no preparation on that other day when Zhen Wushuang brought the Divine Sword official army there to immediately attack them. Why the trouble to only take down a third-rated force? Let's go directly into 7 Absolute City and behead all the high-level 7 Absolute Palace experts and then suppress them by force. Those who dare disobey us shall be killed without mercy. Zhen Wushuang's eyes were cold with a solemn expression. Long Shan tried to gulp down some saliva to stay calm but did not dare to persuade Zhen Wushuang anymore. Whoosh, 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 whoosh. In just a few moments, many Divine Sword official arm soldiers broke into 7 Absolute City under Zhen Wushuang's leadership. Naturally, the high-level 7 Absolute Palace experts immediately noticed the large group of experts that suddenly broke in. The figures of their experts rose into the air. Some restrictions and formations from 7 Absolute City have also been activated. In the center of those experts stood a black-robed old man with an extremely cold and evil aura. He appeared in front of Zhen Wushuang while being surrounded by many experts. The black-robed old man was a peak heaven ultimate god, obviously the 7 Absolute Palace Master. Who are you? The 7 Absolute Palace Master looked cold as he turned toward Zhen Wushuang. Sword Alliance, Su Han, answered Zhen Wushuang. The 7 Absolute Palace Master's face sank. People from the Sword Alliance. We never had any frictions and struggles between our two forces since the Sword Alliance's establishment. What's going on here? Zhen Wushuang smiled indifferently. I'm here for a very simple purpose, your 7 Absolute Palace's location being right next to my Sword Alliance. I've been eyeing this 7 Absolute City for a long time, so you can choose between you surrendering to the Sword Alliance or perish. Your choice. Presumptuous. The 7 Absolute Palace Master was furious. The many 7 Absolute Palace experts were gawking at Zhen Wushuang angrily. They were both a third-rated force, yet the Sword Alliance Master brought a large number of experts to their city and demanded them to directly surrender. How could they be willing? Su-Han, I've heard that your Sword Alliance has integrated the previous Dragon Divine Gang and Purple Beast Alliance. Besides, you've also recruited members on a large scale this year. Your strength is already extremely strong, but you shouldn't be too arrogant. Do you want to take my 7 Absolute Palace down with just a few of you here? I'm afraid you won't be successful, said the 7 Absolute Palace Master coldly. Does this mean that you won't surrender? Then there's nothing more to say. Jian Wushuang's gaze was cold for a moment. Endless golden divine power emerged from Jian Wushuang's body, which then turned into a majestic golden divine power ocean and frantically swept in all directions from Jian Wushuang. In the blink of an eye, the golden ocean of divine power covered a vast area of heaven and earth and immediately formed a huge golden prison out of thin air after the golden divine power ocean was formed. The golden prison covered most of the void above 7 Absolute City along with the powerful 7 Absolute Palace experts. The coverage was to the extent that many other 7 Absolute Palace experts and Divine Sword official army soldiers were also enveloped within it. Chapter 2689, Battling the 7 Absolute Palace Master. The 5,000-foot-high golden god Shadow appeared once again behind Jian Wushuang and looked down upon all things in heaven and earth, intimidating them. Jian Wushuang was like an emperor in the golden prison. Buzz. Powerful domain oppression was acting on those 7 Absolute Palace experts. The experts could feel that their strength was limited to a certain extent. What's this? A prison? And one with domain powers? The domain is so powerful. The 7 Absolute Palace experts frowned as all of them could feel the golden prison's sturdy and solid strength around them. They were all trapped within the prison. Divine Sword official army, kill. Jian Wushuang pointed toward the 7 Absolute Palace experts in front of him and commanded. Murderous intent instantly rose in those 50 Divine Sword official army soldiers. Longshan roared and said, "Everybody, Alliance Master has spent such a high price and time to create us the Divine Sword official army, and today is our first battle. Let's show the Alliance Master our combat powers. Listen to my orders. People, go in groups of 5 and kill." The attack command resounded. The cold killing intent diffused as the 50 Divine Sword official army soldiers immediately went into groups of 5 and off they went charging at the many 7 Absolute Palace experts. Shocking shouts of killing echoed in the void which shook heaven and earth. Kill. The many 7 Absolute Palace experts also immediately came forth to greet the attack, and both sides were in a heated battle. The war had broken out. Su-Han. The 7 Absolute Palace Masters' cold eyes stared hard and hostilely at Jian Wushuang as an endless evil aura permeated the area. Jian Wushuang smiled coldly at him before soon made his move. Jian Wushuang appeared in front of the 7 Absolute Palace Master in a jiffy as though he teleported before coldly thrusting the Blood Mountain sword in his hand. The gloomy 7 Absolute Palace Master had a purple spear in his hand. Although Sword Alliance Master Su-Han is only a high-level Heaven Ultimate God, he was capable of killing the former Purple Beast Alliance Master and should not be underestimated or taken lightly. A majestic divine power surged as the 7 Absolute Palace Master had fully displayed his own strength. The purple spear in his hand made a sharp forward stab, producing endless power of destruction. The power of destruction formed a huge vortex of destruction in the void, like a wild beast opening its big wide mouth fiercely at Jian Wushuang. Jian Wushuang, who was supported by the sword intent from his long sword that carried the powers of 2 spacetime blades, wanted to strangle and break everything in front of him. The two instantly collided. Bang! A low sound like 2 heavy objects collided was heard as 2 shots of terrifying powers exploded before colliding head-on in the void. At the same time as the powers' collision, Jian Wushuang's perfect sword world of 100,000 miles hit the principal world displayed by the 7 Absolute Palace Master and caused the principal world to be oppressed and almost disintegrated in just a brief moment. How is his sword world so strong? 7 Absolute Palace Master was astonished. His principal world was completely crushed as he was affected by a great shock, instantly weakening his overall strength. He was perplexed because he had learned the destruction law, which had one of the strongest offensive powers among the laws. His spear technique was also extremely good, not to mention that his own divine power was even more tyrannical. Even if he was under the double oppression of Jian Wushuang's sword world and golden prison domain, he was certain it would not affect his offensive powers. However, he ended up recalling himself with a slight advantage after colliding against Jian Wushuang's sword world. Rumbling. The divine power spread in heaven and earth as both of them finally pulled apart, with Jian Wushuang sent staggering back a short distance. Indeed, anyone who learns the destruction law has fierce offensive powers. Jian Wushuang was admiring the power of the destruction law. Soon after, Jian Wushuang stood firm and raised his hand. Buzz, 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 buzz. 9 infernal crimson divine swords appeared in front of him. Each of those 9 infernal crimson divine swords was filled with transmigration strength. Jian Wushuang thought it was a hassle to use the 9 infernal crimson divine swords individually for attacking, so he had fused all 9 into one. Transmigration sword formations. First formation, Heaven's Edge. Boom. A huge black divine sword burst out from the reincarnation passage like a huge awl as it pierced through the void and shot toward the 7 Absolute Palace Master. The Transmigration Sword Formation. Although it was only the first formation, it was performed in its best possible condition. Jian Wushuang had spent more than 40 years in his journey from northern Darkstar territory on his transmigration law perception, which had already reached the first stage's extreme. In addition, his divine power was also comparable to a peak heaven ultimate god at that instance. The black divine sword had shocking power when its full potential was being displayed. The 7 Absolute Palace Master's pupils shrank sharply when he saw the black divine sword coming through the void. He immediately sent the spear in his hand out. Clang! The sound of metallic objects collided could be heard as the 7 Absolute Palace Master retreated a few steps back. The black sword was also shaken off its root but had only skewed slightly before returning to its original position and continued to shoot forward. This sword formation is so powerful. The 7 Absolute Palace Master tightened his grip around his spear before greeting the sword formation attack. The black divine sword attacked again and again, but 7 Absolute Palace Master was able to parry it off. However, the 7 Absolute Palace Master was a little gloomy after the repeated attack. I have fought again and again with this sword formation that even my divine body has been affected. My divine body will sustain further damage if this carries on, but this Su Han is only remotely controlling the sword formation to attack me with his action, merely consuming some of his divine power. I'll suffer if this continues. I can't go on like this. Let's just use that trump card. The 7 Absolute Palace Master's eyes were cold as a gush of divine power surged from within him. Buzz. A weird figure that condensed from destruction law appeared in the void out of thin air. It was a destructive clone formed by the 7 Absolute Palace Master based on his own comprehension of the destruction law that could only last for a brief moment. The destruction clone stood in the black divine sword's path. The 7 Absolute Palace Master rushed toward Jian Wushuang. On his way, a monstrous destructive force had begun to condense in his spear. Destructive Dragon Lord Spear. Boom. The spear that carried endless destructive power exploded all of a sudden. Chapter 2690, Enchanted Boom, Boom, Boom. 3 continuous violent bombings reverberated in the void as 3 dragons howling could be heard accompanying the bombing. The 7 Absolute Palace Master had only made one movement, but 3 sword shadows could be seen appearing. Those 3 sword shadows directly turned into 3 destruction dragons and roared ferociously as they attacked. The destruction power those 3 dragons showed had caused even Jian Wushuang's facial expression to change. Jian Wushuang waved his sword without hesitation, unleashing his divine power and his maximum capacity of 2 spacetime blades. Boom! A loud bang. The strong killing power directly killed 2 destruction dragons while the remaining one was unaffected and directly knocked into Jian Wushuang's divine body. Jian Wushuang was sent flying outward until he knocked onto the golden prison's edge and landed on its wall. Have I done it? The 7 Absolute Palace Master stared at Jian Wushuang with a slight satisfaction in his eyes. He could feel that his attack had directly landed on Jian Wushuang's body. This attack was extremely powerful and also his strongest. A true peak heaven ultimate god would have been badly wounded after suffering such an impact head-on under normal circumstances. Those with slightly weaker physical protection abilities might even be destroyed by that attack. As for Su Han, Jian Wushuang had already broken loose from the Golden Prison's wall and reappeared in front of the 7 Absolute Palace Master. You're really a peak heaven ultimate god with some real powers. Jian Wushuang glanced at the 7 Absolute Palace Master with a devilish smile on his face. You aren't hurt. Nothing happened to you? The Palace Master looked at Jian Wushuang and was horrified. He had no idea that only a handful could manage to hurt Jian Wushuang, with even fewer capable of killing him, as Jian Wushuang was a perfect chaotic creature. He would be able to recover in an instant no matter how badly he was injured, as long as he had sufficient divine power. For example, the previous attack had really wounded him, but he had recovered in an instant with his combat power still at his peak level. That attack just now should be your strongest attack. Jian Wushuang stared at the Palace Master with a smile on his face. You've shown your strongest attack and it's my turn now. His aura had started to grow horrifyingly as Jian Wushuang spoke. The 7 Stars secret technique had been activated. His realm had directly risen from peak Earth Ultimate God to Primary Level Heaven Ultimate God following the vast star powers activation. His divine power then expanded from high-level Heaven Ultimate God to peak Heaven Ultimate God under the disguise of the Black Stone. His true strength had skyrocketed in an instant. He then slowly rose his head and glanced at the 7 Absolute Palace Master with a weird smile on his face. Swoosh! Jian Wushuang made a move. He appeared in front of the 7 Absolute Palace Master as though he had teleported. He then made a wave with his Blood Mountain sword. This wave was poignant and heartbreakingly beautiful. It also carried a hint of confusion which made people intoxicated. Many experts in the surrounding void were involuntarily attracted by this sword light when that attack was carried out and could not control themselves from being intoxicated by it once attracted. It felt as though they were drunk after having several drinks. Although it was a slightly uncomfortable feeling, it was enjoyable. A hint of confusion also flashed through 7 Absolute Palace Master's eyes and brought him to the brink of intoxication. However, he still maintained a sense of understanding towards himself as he tried his best to swing the spear in his hand and block that heartbreakingly intoxicating sword attack. He tried his best to block the attack. However, he was terrified when he discovered his speed was much slower than his opponent, who was waving the sword. His speed was too slow and his speed difference with the sword attack was too far apart. He could not block it in time. In the end, swoosh! As their figures met, the heartbreakingly beautiful sword light had already swooshed through his body. Although the 7 Absolute Palace Master was also wearing heavenly treasure level defensive armor, it was not an extremely strong one and was unable to save his life. Cracks had appeared on the armor as the sword light had broken his divine body into 2 from the middle. The 7 Absolute Palace Master's eyes turned lifeless as he failed to hold on to his life. Jian Wushuang stood by the void next to the 7 Absolute Palace Master as he looked down upon his body. I've been understanding the laws and studying my sword principle intensively during the 40-year journey from the northern Darkstar territory to the Danyang continent. I've been trying to innovate new techniques, and because I have the transmigration sword formation for transmigration law, I have paused on transmigration sword techniques and focus all my energy on creating spacetime sword techniques. After 40 years, I've finally created the spacetime sword technique's 7th form, Enchanted. This form is much stronger than the other 6 forms of my spacetime sword technique that I've previously created, mumbled Jian Wushuang. The 7th form, Enchanted, caused everybody to long for the enchantment. That form was something he created out of his peak understanding of spacetime law, a form that was sufficient to cause a huge effect on spacetime. That was the reason this form acted so quickly when he used it. It was so fast that even though 7 Absolute Palace Master was able to respond, he was unable to block it and was directly killed. It would have been easy to kill this 7 Absolute Palace Master I really wanted. Jian Wushuang secretly smiled. In truth, if he used his many methods. Other matters aside, Just the A finger-pointing heavenly technique had allowed him to easily sweep 99% of the peak heaven ultimate gods. Jian Wushuang was not willing to use it again as the A finger-pointing heavenly technique was too overbearing and nature-defying. A technique he would instead treat as one of his last resort techniques. He could not repeatedly use that last resort technique in front of the crowds, or it would no longer be his last trump card. Just like one of his most powerful last resorts, stately painting, he would not easily use it unless necessary. No matter what, the 7 Absolute Palace Master was already dead. In the voids around them, the 7 Absolute Palace experts who were fighting with the Divine Sword Army naturally saw that scene. The Palace Master is dead. Impossible. If the Palace Master is dead, then aren't we? The experts from the 7 Absolute Palace were horrified and frightened. In contrast to that, the Divine Sword Army had risen morale. Haha, their Palace Master has been killed by us. Kill all of them. Chapter 2691. As easy as breaking a dead branch off a tree, the Divine Sword Army consisted of 50 Heaven Ultimate Gods, with each being the cream of the crop among Heaven Ultimate Gods. They were an army fighting against the 7 Absolute Palace experts in teams of 5 in an absolute advantage, with the battle situation could be said to be leaning to one side. The 7 Absolute Palace experts had lost their backbone and their will to fight following the 7 Absolute Palace Master's death, which immediately caused the situation to lean towards one side. Their failure was imminent and became as easy as breaking dry branches off a tree. The 7 Absolute Palace experts had completely lost their capabilities in resisting and could only be slaughtered by the Divine Sword Army. Whoever surrenders can avoid death, and those who continue to resist will be killed without any hesitation. Jian Wushuang's cold voice could be heard reverberating in the entire Golden Prison. The 7 Absolute Palace experts were extremely happy when they heard his voice. A huge number of the experts gave up resisting and directly surrendered in front of Jian Wushuang in the next moment. Most of the experts would choose to surrender without hesitation if their lives were at stake. However, there were still a small number of stubborn experts who were naturally slaughtered by the Divine Sword Army. The Divine Sword Army moved swiftly as the 7 Absolute Palace experts, apart from those who surrendered, were killed. In this battle, Jian Wushuang had seen the Divine Sword Army's combat prowess. The combat prowess unleashed by a team of 5 under the magic formation's support was astonishing. Putting the divine power depletion aside, the fact that the attack damage they received was shared among those 5 people had caused none of the Divine Sword Army's members to fall in the battle, despite many 7 Absolute Palace experts having died. This is indeed a legion. Jian Wushuang secretly gasped in admiration. The combat strength between an expert legion set up with money and a team formed with the union of normal cultivators were different. The 50-men Divine Sword Army alone was just a preliminary formation, and many things were imperfect. The magic formation they used was slightly normal, but their combat power was still extremely strong. This caused Jian Wushuang to uncontrollably think about the first-ranked legion on the Danyang continent, the Crimson Stone Official Army. The Crimson Stone Official Army had a total of 1,000 Heaven Ultimate Gods during its peak, with each of those Heaven Ultimate Gods being elites. They had a great many brave warriors, while their military and magic formations are perfect. This was an extremely invincible legion under the personal leadership of the Crimson Stone Saint and his many other Heaven Ultimate Gods. The Divine Sword Army was still very much weaker when compared to a legion of that level. Immediately send a message to inform Dong Shui that the 7 Absolute Temple has been conquered by us. Ask her to come over with some people to take over the 7 Absolute City and arrange a place for the 7 Absolute Palace experts to settle down. Make sure to use those who are useful, ordered Jian Wushuang. Yes. Long Shan nodded and immediately sent a message to Dong Shui. After that, Jian Wushuang and the Divine Sword Army only waited a day in the 7 Absolute City before Dong Shui rushed over with many Sword Alliance experts. The Sword Alliance was originally the integration of 2 third-rated forces. However, there were many experts in the Sword Alliance at that moment due to the many resources which Jian Wushuang provided within that year, on top of the fact they recruited many others. The Divine Sword Army alone had 50 Heaven Ultimate Gods, with another 50 Heaven Ultimate Gods in the Alliance. At this moment, Dong Shui had brought a group of the Heaven Ultimate Gods to meet up with Jian Wushuang. Alliance Master, this place is. Dong Shui looked at the surroundings in surprise. She had already guessed what happened here, but she was still extremely surprised by it. Jian Wushuang had hurried over with the Divine Sword Army and wiped out the 7 Absolute Palace without any preparations or discussions beforehand. "I'll leave the remaining steps for you to resolve as I have other matters needing my attention," ordered Jian Wushuang before glancing over at Long Shan. "Long Shan, gather the Divine Sword Army. We're leaving now. We're leaving now." Long Shan was caught by surprise. "Alliance Master, where are we going this time?" "Bloodwater City," said Jian Wushuang. "The Bloodwater Gang's turf, Bloodwater City?" "Alliance Master, do you plan to continue by making a move toward the Bloodwater Gang?" Long Shan and Dong Shui widened their eyes. Was his appetite not too huge for immediately making a move towards the Bloodwater Gang after winning over the 7 Absolute Temple? Impersonally leading the Divine Sword Army this time. It's also the Divine Sword Army's first battle. How can we only take down one force, the 7 Absolute Temple? The Bloodwater City isn't too far from the 7 Absolute City. We can arrive there in half a day with our speed, and the Bloodwater Gang won't be able to react under such circumstances. "Follow me," Jian Wushuang ordered without further explanation. Many of the soldiers in the Divine Sword Army saw with their own eyes Jian Wushuang swiftly killing the 7 Absolute Temple Master. His strength naturally increased their obedience toward him, and there were no hesitations when they heard Jian Wushuang's orders. The Divine Sword Army immediately took action and headed for the Bloodwater City. The Bloodwater Gang located in the Bloodwater City was also one of the third-rated forces near the Sword Alliance. However, it was much weaker compared to the 7 Absolute Temple. Although the Divine Sword Army had just experienced an intense battle against the 7 Absolute Temple, it did not suffer any huge losses and still contained its high combat prowess. There was no need to mention Jian Wushuang, who was definitely in good shape. The same situation soon happened. The place was also forcefully wiped out and fell apart like broken twigs, just like the 7 Absolute Temple. A normal third-rated force with only a single peak Heaven Ultimate God was unable to stop Jian Wushuang and his Divine Sword Army. The Bloodwater Gang Master was killed by Jian Wushuang, whilst his direct followers also died in the Divine Sword Army's hands within 15 minutes. The remaining Bloodwater Gang experts thereafter surrendered. As a result, Jian Wushuang had also obtained the Bloodwater Gang. Dong Shui thought she was dreaming when she rushed to the Bloodwater Gang with her subordinates and saw the situation there. It had to be known that the previous Dragon Divine Gang had constantly suffered from conflicts against the other third-rated forces near them. However, those few forces were too close with each other such that it was difficult to create a huge crisis for the other parties. The reason Dragon Divine Gang got into their previous situation was because of the Dragon Divine Gang Master's carelessness. He ended up being killed by the Purple Beast Alliance Master, who found the opportunity to do so. However, their new Alliance Master had swiftly taken down 2 third-rated forces within a mere 2 days, less than a year after the Sword Alliance was formed, with means beyond what others could do. "Alliance Master, shall we continue to the next force?" Long Shan asked as he stood beside Jian Wushuang. He had previously felt that Jian Wushuang was slightly crazy, but those continuous battles had given him huge confidence. He was looking forward to Jian Wushuang leading the Divine Sword Army and attacking the remaining third-rated forces. He was not the only one, as most of the Divine Sword Army's soldiers felt the same. Jian Wushuang had earlier announced that they could take over their dead enemies' interspatial rings in such battles, hence it was natural for them wanting to continue conquering others. One of the reasons being they were enjoying the killing spree, while the other was that all of them had somewhat benefited after experiencing both battles, with some gaining huge amounts of spoils. Chapter 2692. Support of a powerful clan continue to the next force? Jian Wushuang slowly shook his head. This will be the end of this trip. Our Sword Alliance has huge gains as we've gained control of the lands that originally belonged to the 7 Absolute Temple and Bloodwater Gang after continuously wiping them out. If we continue our path, Brothers of the Divine Sword Army might be able to take it, but the remaining third-rated forces aren't dumb. I'm sure they have already gotten news about what our Sword Alliance is doing and will be prepared. There's a possibility that the remaining 3 forces have already gathered together. We might not be able to gain an upper hand if we continue our journey of conquering others. Let's focus on integrating the lands we've just gained and talk about this later. All right. Long Shan nodded. The Divine Sword Army soldiers were slightly disappointed when they knew the journey of conquering others was not continuing, but they quickly settled down. They knew that they were the Sword Alliance's sharpest sword, and they were not in a hurry, as there would surely be a lot more conquering battles like what they had experienced that day. As the Sword Alliance was busy integrating the territories that once belonged to the 7 Absolute Temple and Bloodwater Gang, the rulers of the remaining 3 third-rated forces had already gathered together just as Jian Wushuang expected. They were in a huge mansion where the Corpse Palace was located. In the huge hall, a bald man who was like a bag of bones was sitting on the throne. There was a wine glass on the table in front of him that was filled with crimson-colored blood. It was the blood of a virgin. The bald old man's face was filled with anticipation and desire as he looked at the virgin's blood in the glass. He picked up the glass and slightly wet the corner of his lips before gulping everything down. He had a prolonged, intoxicated and content expression on his face after drinking the blood. Palace Master Jiyu Mo is still extremely laid back when we're already in an imminent crisis. A slightly unfriendly voice could be heard. The person speaking was a middle-aged man in long robes seated in front of a table at the end of the hall. The middle-aged man in long robes was emitting a powerful peak heaven ultimate god aura. There was a lady in green clothing sitting opposite of him who had her eyes closed but a serious expression on her face nonetheless. The bald old man had finally put down the wine glass in his hands and glanced over at the duo sitting underneath before smiling and asked, "An imminent crisis? Everything is going well, so where is this imminent crisis coming from?" Palace Master Jiyu Mo. Do you really not know, or are you faking it? The Sword Alliance has already taken action. They managed to conquer both the 7 Absolute Temple and Bloodwater Gang in less than 2 days. At this rate, the next force the Sword Alliance will be aiming for could be my Divine Dragon Pavilion or the Purple Dress House. They might even directly take action towards your Corpse Palace. The Sword Alliance is coming at such a menacing rate. We might follow in the footsteps of 7 Absolute Temple and Bloodwater Gang if we don't prepare ourselves, shouted the middle-aged man in long robes who was also the Divine Dragon Pavilion Master in a deep voice. Brother Sheng Long, aren't you worrying unnecessarily? Putting the fact that the Sword Alliance might not even take action against both of you. Even if they really take action against you, you shouldn't be afraid either, as all of us are third-rated forces after all, said the bald old man slowly, who was also one of the Corpse Palace Masters, Palace Master Jiyu Mo. The Corpse Palace had 2 Palace Masters, Jiyu Mo and Shemo. Both of them were peak heaven ultimate gods. Between the 2 of them, Shemo was much stronger but seldom involved himself in mundane affairs. Jiyu Mo was the one taking care of the Corpse Palace's daily affairs. Palace Master Jiyu Mo, I'm not in the mood for jokes at such important times, said the long-robed middle-aged man coldly. He clearly understood the strength of his Divine Dragon Pavilion. As a third-rated force, the Divine Dragon Pavilion's strength was similar to the 7 Absolute Palace and Bloodwater Gang. If the Sword Alliance was able to wipe out both forces so easily, they could easily wipe out the Divine Dragon Pavilion and Purple Dress House too. It looks like Brother Sheng Long is really nervous this time. Jiyu Mo smiled, but the expression on his face gradually changed to a serious one. No matter what, the Sword Alliance has gone overboard this time and has already become a serious threat to us. Everybody will feel insecure if this continues, hence why don't we make an appointment with the Sword Alliance Master and have a good discussion with him to resolve this matter. Make an appointment with him to have a discussion? The long-robed middle-aged man was extremely angry. Jiyu Mo, what are you thinking? The Sword Alliance has already openly taken action, and we only plan to make an appointment with the Alliance Master to discuss ways to resolve this matter. What a joke! Is this a joke to you? What great ideas do you have then, Brother Sheng Long? Jiyu Mo asked. Simple, the Sword Alliance is a great threat and its ambitions are clear to all of us. We cannot be sitting ducks and need to grab this chance before the Sword Alliance has full control over the 7 Absolute Palace and Bloodwater Gang's territory. The 3 of us should join hands and wipe out this Sword Alliance before they grow too strong, said the long-robed middle-aged man seriously. I agree. The green-clothed lady who had been quiet while sitting there in an upright manner also slightly nodded. Both of them had a prior discussion between themselves before coming over to the Corpse Palace together. Gu Mo smiled indifferently. The both of you agree to directly take action and wipe out the Sword Alliance. However, have you thought about the fact that it isn't so easy to wipe out the Sword Alliance? If I'm right, the Sword Alliance has a strong power secretly supporting them. What? The expressions on both the long-robed middle-aged man and green-clothed lady changed as they immediately turned their heads to look at Gu Mo. Gu Mo continued, I'm just making assumptions, but there's a huge possibility it's true. The Sword Alliance originated from the merger of Dragon Divine Gang and Purple Beast Alliance. Both forces were third-rated forces without many resources. However, the Sword Alliance has been wantonly raising a large army after Suhan appeared and integrated both forces to form the Sword Alliance. They even offered very attractive terms. Third-rated forces like us offer 1 million primordial stones as payment to a primary-level heaven ultimate god for 100 years of service. On the other hand, the Sword Alliance is so rich that they offer 3 million primordial stones to any primary-level heaven ultimate gods who joins and obeys them for 100 years. Their offer is 3 times that of ours. They attracted many experts to join them because they had such attractive terms. This is why the Sword Alliance's strength increased by so much within 1 year till the point that they could wipe out the 7 Absolute Palace and Bloodwater Gang. The Sword Alliance can afford such high payments because they owned a huge amount of resources and had substantial financial support. However, where did these resources and financial support come from? Only relying on high-level heaven ultimate god Suhan is not enough. That's why I'm certain that the Sword Alliance has a huge powerful clan supporting them from behind the scenes. This powerful clan might be an extremely strong second-rated force on the Danyang continent. However, it might also be a really powerful first-rate force. Chapter 2693. A treacherous dinner. It doesn't matter if the Sword Alliance has a strong second-rated or first-rate clan supporting them. We cannot easily offend them, said Gu Mo. The long-robed middle-aged man and the lady from the purple dress house looked sheepishly at each other as they heard this before nodding to themselves. It was true that the Sword Alliance had lots of resources and it looked like there was a powerful clan secretly supporting them. If a clan secretly supported them, the Sword Alliance was not what several small third-rated clans could offend. That is why we cannot make any rash moves. Let's invite the Sword Alliance master over and have a discussion with him. We need to understand if any powerful clans support the Sword Alliance and inquire about his true purpose. We shall act based on the situation later on, said Gu Mo. Act based on the situation? The long-robed middle-aged man and the green-clothed lady dress looked at each other. Both of them naturally understood the meaning behind Gu Mo's words. Both of us will make our move first if that's the case. Palace Master Gu Mo, please send a message to the Sword Alliance as soon as possible, said the long-robed middle-aged man. Don't worry, Brother Shenglong. I'll immediately send the message to Sword Alliance, but I have no idea if the Sword Alliance master will attend the dinner or not, said Gu Mo. The long-robed middle-aged man and the green-clothed lady did not stay any longer. They soon turned and left. However, Gu Mo's eyes turned cold after they left, and even had a weird smile on his face. Big brother, have you heard everything? Gu Mo started mumbling to himself. However, an old man who looked cold and did not have any breath of life in him slowly appeared as he finished speaking. This old man was the other Corpse Palace Master. Shamo. The Divine Dragon Pavilion and the Purple Dress House came to our Corpse Palace proactively after the 7 Absolute Palace and Bloodwater Gang were continuously wiped out by the Sword Alliance. Ha ha! Even the gods are helping me. Gu Mo laughed arbitrarily. Shamo coldly said, our Corpse Palace was originally worried about not having a way to centralize the leaders of these forces. However, the Sword Alliance has helped us in a big way. We've waited for so long to finally get this chance. Star Fort has been prepared since long ago and I only need to send a message to get them here. As for the Sword Alliance, I'm leaving it to you to send the message. Make sure the Alliance Master comes over no matter what. Don't worry, big brother. Our Corpse Palace has never had any conflict with the Sword Alliance, and I even sent an expensive gift when the Sword Alliance was first founded. I did that to make the Alliance Master have a good impression on me. Now that I'm lowering my attitude to personally invite him, I don't think the Alliance Master will refuse me, said Jiyu Mo with a smile. That's good. Shimo slightly nodded. The people of the Corpse Palace soon sent a token to the Sword Alliance which was placed in front of Jian Wushuang at that moment. Jian Wushuang looked at the message on the token as he sat on the throne. His facial expressions changed. Both Corpse Palace masters personally invited me to attend a dinner at the Corpse Palace. They are lowering their positions by so much. Dinner? What does the Corpse Palace plan to do? Xiao Taishan, Dong Shui, Long Shan, and several others stood in front of Jian Wushuang with weird expressions on their faces. Our Sword Alliance has just wiped out the 7 Absolute Palace and Bloodwater Gang. I'm sure the Corpse Palace has something else in mind when they invite you to the dinner at this moment, said Xiao Taishan. If I assumed correctly, people from Divine Dragon Pavilion and Purple Dress House will be attending that dinner too, said Dong Shui. Perhaps. Jian Wushuang nodded. He could also notice that this dinner might be one with planned treachery hidden behind that was aimed at him. Alliance Master, it matters not if you don't attend the dinner since it's so dangerous, said He Yang. That's right. We don't need to be afraid of the Corpse Palace based on our Sword Alliance's strength right now. We can ignore this dinner. Zishan also agreed. With that said, I don't plan to completely turn against the Corpse Palace now. The Corpse Palace previously gave me an expensive gift and are even lowering their stance right now. It's hard to explain my absence when Thief honored me to this extent. Apart from that, I keep having the feeling that this dinner is not going to be so simple, said Jian Wushuang. It's not that simple. Xiao Taishan and the others wondered. The Corpse Palace acts so weirdly. The Corpse Palace is the strongest among the third-rated forces surrounding us and even has the support of the Star Fort behind them. Why didn't the Corpse Palace contend for hegemony when they have such a huge advantage? They even treat the remaining third-rated forces around them politely and humbly. It's really abnormal. The Corpse Palace even sent gifts to express good intentions when our Sword Alliance was first founded. As the saying goes, one who's unaccountably solicitous is hiding evil intentions. I have this constant feeling that the Corpse Palace is planning something. We should be able to see Corpse Palace's true intentions in this dinner, mumbled Jian Wushuang, who was deep in his thoughts as he tapped his fingers on the armchair. He finally made up his mind after some time. I'm going to this dinner. Alliance Master, Xiao Taishan and the others were surprised. Jian Wushuang waved his hand as he smiled. Don't worry. Although the dinner might be dangerous, it's impossible to make me stay with only the Corpse Palace's strength. Not only the Corpse Palace, but even the Star Fort behind them also aren't capable of doing it. He was confident about his strength and means. Although there were people in this ancient god domain who could kill him, they did not exist in this Danyang continent. Let alone just a third-rated force in the Danyang continent. Xiao Taishan and the others glanced at each other but stopped persuading him when they heard that. However, Long Shan still said, Alliance Master. Why don't I lead the Divine Sword Army and wait outside the Corpse Palace for safety precautions? If anything happens during the dinner, you only need to send a message and the Divine Sword Army can attack them. That sounds great. Jian Wushuang nodded. Long Shan immediately commanded the Divine Sword Army to make preparations after a decision was made. 3 days later, Jian Wushuang left for the Corpse Palace. The Corpse Palace was extremely strong among the third-rated forces and had control over a large territory, 3 townships. Corpse City was where the old den of the Corpse Palace was located at. The Divine Sword Army was left outside of the Corpse City as Jian Wushuang entered the city alone. Jiyu Mo, who had been waiting there for him, immediately walked forward to welcome Jian Wushuang once he entered the city. Ha ha! I've long heard about Alliance Master Su Han's reputation, but we were never fated to meet previously. Finally, I've gotten to meet you in person today. Gu Mo looked extremely welcoming. I've also admired Palace Master Gu Mo's since a long time ago. It's a pleasure to meet you today. I wonder if Palace Master Shamo is also here? Jian Wushuang politely asked. Big Brother is also here but has in retreat all year long and will not be able to welcome you. I hope Alliance Master Suhan won't be unhappy because of that, said Gu Mo with a smile. You're tuning in to the Celestial War YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.